regularization method. What is regularization? It is a process of introducing additional information in order to solve an ill-posed problem or maybe to prevent overfitting. So one of the reasons for overfitting, it is the large weights in the network. A network with large network weights, they can be sign of unstable network where small changes in the output, they can lead to large changes. If we make even small changes in the input, there will be large changes in the output. So solution to this kind of problem is to update the learning algorithm to encourage the network to keep the weights small. So that is called regularization. So basically, what is regularization? The process of introducing certain additional information to solve an ill-posed problem, or we can say to prevent the overfitting. Overfitting, how does it happen in our network? It happens because of the large weight. So if we have a network in which we are providing large weights, so our network, it can be unstable, where small changes in the input, they can lead to the large changes in the output because of these weights. Because when we are calculating certain results, our inputs, they get multiplied with the weights. And if we have large weights in itself, so in that case, what happens? Even a small change in the input will give us large changes in the output because of these weights. So a solution to this problem is to update our learning algorithm to encourage our algorithm in such a way that the key weights that we are multiplying with our inputs, they should be kept very minimum. So this process is called regularization. So there are techniques which are used for regularization. First one of which is batch normalization. What is batch normalization? It is a technique for improving the speed, the performance, and the stability of our artificial neural network. It is also known as batch norm in short. If we are talking about batch normalization, we can call it batch norm in short. Basically, why we are using it? It is a technique that we are using for improving the speed, the performance, and the stability of our artificial neural network. So what is the idea behind it? The idea is to normalize the input of each layer in such a way that they have mean activation output 0 and a unit standard deviation. Here in batch normalization, what do? We compute the mean and the standard deviation from a mini batch, not from the entire data. Batch normalization, we are calling it batch, the term we have studied earlier also. Batch means we are taking a small number of samples into our data. So here we compute the mean and the standard deviation from a mini batch, not from the whole set of data. So at every layer we are adding noise, and the noise has a non-zero mean and non-unit variance, and it is generated for every layer. It is then added after the batch normalization layers to deliberately introduce a covariate shift into the activation. It acts as a regularizer. So with less information, network has to predict the right labels, and also it has to make our model more robust. So batch normalization, it regularizes the gradient from distraction to the outliers. Outlier means if we have a particular line, outliers are the random values which are outside the range of it, and flow towards a common goal. Our main goal of batch normalization is to regularize the gradient from distraction to the outlier and the flow towards the common goal within the range of mini batch, resulting in the acceleration of the learning process. So that is the main goal of our batch normalization. Batch normalization, why we are doing it? To regularize our data. So to regularize our data, what do we do in batch normalization? We take a small batch of data. We take a small number of samples and then we operate on them using our mean variance and the standard deviation. And our main goal of batch normalization is to regularize our gradient from distraction to the outliers. Now talking about the second one, that is dropout. A dropout is an approach to regularization in the neural network which helps to reduce the interdependent learning among the neurons. So basically what we are trying to do in dropout, in this we are trying to regularize our neural network. How it helps to reduce the interdependent learning among the neurons. A single model, it can be used to simulate having a large number of different network architecture. How? By randomly dropping out the nodes during training. When we are trying to train a neural network, a single model can be used to simulate having a larger number of different network architecture by simply randomly dropping out the nodes during the training. This is called dropout, and it offers a very computationally cheap and effective regularization method to reduce the overfitting and to improve the generalization errors. So in our network architecture, when we are training our neural network, we are trying to regularize it by reducing the overfitting. What do we do in this? We randomly drop out certain nodes. That is why the name given to it, drop out. During training, some number of layer outputs, they are dropped out with certain probability P. If we have certain probability P which we want to change, so in that case we drop out certain nodes. This has the effect of making the layer look like and be treated like a layer with a different number of nodes and connectivity to the prior layer. Suppose we have a neural network, we are training it, we are trying to regularize it. What do? We are working on certain number of nodes. We analyze that the particular probability of a particular node, it can be used as a change. So we simply drop out this node. So it is a very simple method and very economical method to calculate the result. So that is why the name given to it, drop out, because we are dropping out certain nodes, and when that particular node is dropped out, we achieve a different output. Similarly, by dropping out certain other node, we achieve a different result, and from those we can select that which is the best result for a neural network. So that is why the name given to it, drop out network. We basically have three types of ways. One is no drop network. That is the very simplest one, in which we have the input layer, we have the hidden layers, we have the output layer. Now second one is dropout network, in which what do? We have certain inputs, we have certain nodes in our hidden layer, and we have the output. While calculating the output, we randomly drop out some of the nodes. So what happens when these nodes are dropped out? Obviously they are going to impact the result differently. And by dropping out these nodes, we can finalize, we can see that whether our network, it is working more efficiently now or not. So that is why we call it drop out network. Now we have the third one, that is a drop connect network. In this, we randomly work on certain weights. As you can see in this picture, in dropout, certain nodes are dropped, but in drop connect, certain weights, the weights which are being multiplied with the inputs, these weights are dropped out. So that is why the name given to the third type of network, it is drop connect network. Drop connect, we introduce drop connect as a generalization of dropout only for regularizing the large fully connected layer within the neural network. When training with dropout, a randomly selected subset of activation, they are set to 0 within each layer. Now, drop connect. It instead sets a randomly selected subset of weights within a network to 0. Here in drop connect, what we are doing, we are setting a randomly selected subset of weights within a network to 0. In dropout, we are selecting the subset of activations, means the nodes. Nodes are being dropped out, we are setting them to 0. But in drop connect, we are trying to select certain subsets of weights within the network, which we are making them as 0. So this is a generalization of drop connect only. Each unit thus receives input from the random subsets of units in the previous layer. We derived a bound of generalization performance of both the dropout and drop connect. So we then evaluate drop connect on a range of data set, comparing to dropout, and show the state-of-art results on several image recognition benchmarks by aggregating multiple dropout trained model. So this is another form of regularization technique that can be used to reduce the overfitting of our network.